Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today is week 31 of building Hogwarts, and we are going to carry on where we stopped last week with continuing the Astronomy Tower. I've already got a little jump on this week's episode, and I've started laying out what this next floor is going to look like. For any of you that didn't watch last week's episode, essentially what I'm doing is trying to recreate the Philosopher Stone challenges on the floors below, if I can remember which way to open it. On this floor we have the chessboard. You can watch last week's video if you're interested on how we did that. And then on the very bottom floor, the wall opens up the other way. And we have the final challenge, although the mirror has toppled over. Now these probably will be fixed later on in terms of making the scenes a little bit more interesting, more detailed and such. But for now we are going to be carrying on onto the next floor. What I've decided to do is split it right down the middle. On this side we're going to have the Devil's Snare. I've already started experimenting here, and the reason why is because even though there is a hole there, it's not really usable space as such, and because Devil's Snare is really just a room with lots and lots of dark green vines, I'm essentially just going to plaster this entire area, and I think it will be a good use for this space that is mostly hidden. So this will be the view that you get, sort of just a snapshot right into a very dark and green covered area. And this bit where you can see directly into, there'll be a little bit of wall here, and it will be a small sort of vignette of the Room of the Winged Keys. In terms of what I plan on doing, it's just very simply going to be a lot of snot pieces all throughout this wall, and I'm going to use a mixture of these sort of tree leaf pieces. We've got all of these, which are algae, I suppose, and I have some of these here. So between the three of those, I'm hoping that will serve as the base for the Devil's Snare, and we'll see how we kind of get from there. Now, obviously, there is essentially a floor underneath it, and there's a, well, kind of a floor of ivy right above, which will sit roughly right here, and I will somehow try to make like a hole where figures can drop down through the bottom, but in any case, it's just going to be completely covering this area. And we're just going to kind of go wild. There is no set plan on how this is going to work. Probably have to do several iterations before we see what looks good. So here's what we're looking like a little bit later. I don't know what I've done, but this is sort of what I've come up with. Essentially, the way I started was by putting most of the regular tree leaf pieces against the wall, just to sort of cover up the tan and make it look as dense as possible. And then I've been using these algae pieces sticking out from those leaves to sort of create a platform here in the middle. Now, it's obviously not very full, but I think it is generally getting the right aesthetic. So I'm happy with how it's going so far. Just a look around the other side. I have tiled off the floor, so that's all well and good. This is sort of the angle that you'll be seeing it from. So again, it's really just about curating the view that you're going to see, because no one's ever going to look at it from this angle. Also, I went ahead and changed the position of the trap door, so it now sits a bit like this. And if I just remove that, the trap door essentially falls in that location. I'll try to get around the side. It falls somewhat like there, which is pretty much just right above those algae. So what I'm going to do is just make this a little bit more dense than it already is, but keeping in mind that I can't impede on where the trap door falls, because that needs to still open. In terms of what we've got going on this wall, it's a very, very simple archway, a little bit of rock just to kind of make it feel a little bit more rugged. It's quite basic, but it does the job. And on this side, we have the exposed wall, 2 arches on this side, and well, this will be the Room of the Winged Keys. I'm hoping I can use quite a lot of transparent pieces in order to hold the keys. And in the same way that this is very dense with foliage, this will be very dense with flying keys, and of course Harry on his broomstick. And while I'm not sure you can actually see this, I have just decided to fill in that little bit of a gap between the curved wall and the 16x16 plate with a few smaller plates, and in doing so it's just allowed me to pretty much build very close to the edge right there. And it makes the room feel a little bit bigger than it was before, and it helps block off that big hole. So because of all the foliage, I don't think you actually notice that there is a hole there, or if it is, it's very slight. All it means is that I get a little bit more space to play with. Alright, so what I've got here is a few of the keys from this set right here, which is frankly actually probably the only set where I have a wing that clips onto a key in this fashion, so it's actually quite useful. We've got, what, about 7 or so right here, and the way in which I'm thinking of attaching them to the walls is, I was trying to keep it all transparent if it will focus, but I've had to end up using just sort of a light grey clip piece right here in order to position any of the keys at an angle, or frankly just hold them in place. And the idea is that once they're in here, they'll kind of sit something like this, and we'll dart them throughout the room, and then we'll have Harry right in the middle. And I think what we'll do is put Harry towards the front over here so that it blocks most of what you're seeing, and then we'll have a few keys darted about, and Ron and Hermione standing at the back, something like that. But in any case, it is of course just another very simple room, which is all about the scene that you create in it. Okay everyone, so just for the purpose of showing you what it would look like if the astronomy tower was finished, now here we have the floor that we just worked on. We open up the little handle, and there we go, and it's a bit dark, obviously, but hopefully, well, I can't actually, that won't do anything. There we have the room of the wing keys. Harry flying around with just 4 or 5 other keys, and it fills up the space quite quickly. In fact, didn't really have to do much else. And then while it's not terribly easy to see it on camera, I will try to lift this up, and if that'll work, you get a view into the back there, if it will try to focus. We'll come around the other side, maybe come around this top bit, and you can see Ron, who's fallen into the devil's snare, and I think this actually has turned out pretty good. And then of course we have the trap door, which if I were to open that up, it falls as such into this space. So overall, a very simple but quite successful floor. This is what it looks like next to the chessboard below it and the final challenge below that. So all of a sudden we are starting to have a full interior. But as for what's going up here, of course you know that it's going to be Fluffy and the trap door, but I'm going to be doing something a little bit different with the building. Now let me explain. If I take the astronomy tower and put it back up here, obviously if I continue doing it as such, it's just going to be a very tall building with interiors, but of course I need to move it, so I've got to make some way for this not to break in transport. And of course it's potentially the tallest building, I think. So I'm going to try to basically, instead of tiling off at the top of the floor, I'm basically going to tile off on the bottom. So you're going to pull the walls up on this floor, and this is going to be the total height of the building when it's attached to the base plates, and then this will be removable so that the tower doesn't break in transport. So potentially a little bit unorthodox to tile off the bottom as opposed to the top of the walls, but this is really the cutoff for where I want to have the astronomy tower before it gets a little bit too dangerously skinny and tall. As for why I'm not just tiling right underneath this floor, it's because we've got these walls and all the plants and stuff underneath it, and I do want them to be secure, and if this was tiled off, everything would be very flimsy inside. So I just want everything below here to be strong and secure, because there's this bit that's not properly attached here and pretty much no support along this wall. So I'd rather these be supported, and then here on up we'll do what we need to. Of course, Fluffy, the room is not going to be overly complicated, it's just going to be a room with a dog in it. Okay, so we've got the start of this floor going. It's pretty much exactly the same as the floor below, although a few minor differences. This one has 2 bricks exposed on this side, whereas these only have 1, and that's simply because a little bit higher up we encounter this spire, if you will, so I'm going to make sure that it opens up just to the right or to the left of that. And of course everything is technically just mounted on tiles and just little plates in the corner, so this will all be removable. Now the only exception to that is around this side. This is all going to be connected, so when it comes to actually removing this half of the tower, this bit will come off, and this bit I'll just have to make sure to carefully take apart, and it will just be left with exposed bricks. So a few pieces will probably fall when I do that, but it's probably the best I can do without actually having to put plates and well, the round plates as well on top of each of these. And that's simply because I don't have them. If I did, I would be doing that, but we work with what we have. In any case, it's working fine, I guess. One thing I'll have to keep in mind is This is the old Fluffy, this is the new Fluffy, and they are pretty much the same size, but they are decently tall, and this is the amount of space I've got working with. So I basically figured out that it's going to take roughly about 8 bricks, which is about this, which only left about 6 bricks for the Ravenclaw common room. So I'm going to try to give as much height to this floor as possible, where Fluffy will actually fit, and no more, because I would like to prioritize giving the Ravenclaw common room some justice, because, well, the Gryffindor common room has got that big building, Hufflepuff has got a large area underneath, and the Slytherin has got this entire area. Ravenclaw is pretty much the smallest by almost half, so I'm going to try to give it a little bit of justice and give it some space there. But let's keep going. Also, another thing I'll mention is, so I'm not just plopping this back on top here, simply because I've had to rearrange where the windows go. Originally they were all a lot lower, and it meant that the windows were starting essentially at floor level. So I moved this floor up, which means that I need to move this floor up as well, because currently it would be sitting right there. So I want it about 2 or 3 bricks higher than that. So it just means I'm going row by row and laying the bricks, and in doing so I will be sort of deciding how the space is going to look like. If anything needs to go on the wall, I can do that as I'm building it, and at some point I'm going to encounter this. I'm going to have to make sure that it all stays structurally sound, that we can open the back panel without it affecting how that is going to be well, working. So we've now reached a point where we've got the windows in place, and more importantly, we've got the beginnings of the spire. Now it's only being held by a single brick right there in the corner, but we are working with it, and the door does still open as we intended to. And here we have Fluffy on the inside, and it's pretty basic, of course, flooring. Just did a mismatch of tiles and plates. We've got the we've got the harp. I completely forgot what it was called. I decided to go with the larger, or the newer Fluffy for the moment. Here's the other one, in case I do decide to swap it out. And I have covered up a little bit of this area using some different pieces this time, but it's pretty close to the edge. And if I were to open it, this is the kind of angle that you're getting into it. So of course we're just going to have to create some more scenes. From here on out, it's basically going to be a little bit more of figuring out the structure, make sure this doesn't fall over. We've also got the larger spire, which is sitting right here for the moment. That'll hook on just about right here. So the base is actually probably starting about right there. So we're just going to really be finishing everything off here. This is going to be the last simple room, and then we're going to have to give a little bit of thought to the Ravenclaw common room above it. Alright, so we're now at the point where we can get started on the Ravenclaw common room. I've just put the little base around the edge of plates, and we've started up with this wall, so everything is solid, ready to be started. We've got the hinging wall as well. Because this is not going to be just a simple room like the ones before, now not saying that those were easy to do, because that did take quite a while. This we've actually got to put some thought into it, because all the other ones look good. This one has to this one also has to look good. So what I'm thinking is, and of course we have to design it solely as if we're looking at it from this angle. It doesn't matter what it looks like from above. So if you look in, there are 2 things that we can do with this Ravenclaw common room. We can either make the main area where we put the statue of Ravenclaw right in the middle, the big white gleaming statue. We'll use her for a moment. There we go. We got Ravenclaw right in the middle, and we make some cool pattern floor, and we do some drapes on the wall, and we do a little bit of seating and such. That's one option. Or option 2, which I think is potentially more exciting, is we actually show the bedroom side of it. And that's mainly because I played Hogwarts Legacy, and they've got these really cool bunk bed style rooms in there, and I would like to include them. That being said though, we can't just do a dormitory, because it is of course the common room first and foremost. So first thing we're going to do is take a quick look at the books. We're going to get some ideas, and then we're going to get building. So here we are looking at the Hogwarts Legacy book again. Now this is the Ravenclaw common room. We've got Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Slytherin, Ravenclaw. This is quite cool. I mean, it's the only one that's really bright and airy, and it's less so about the furniture and more the actual architectural space, which will be kind of cool. So we've got quite a lot of white going on in the room, which will be a little bit of a relief from the rest of the castle. Now that I might decide to do that in light grey, it depends obviously on the parts that I have and what looks best in the space. But as you can see, we got the statue of Ravenclaw, which I thought was in the middle, but it's actually against the wall. And we've got just some pretty ornate furniture and some blue carpets and a bunch of drapery around the windows, which I think is the main thing that I would like to capture. I've got a bag of navy blue parts, and I've pretty much never ever used navy for a mock, so it'll be interesting to make use of some of those parts. Most of them are just wedge plates. So this is the main angle that I would like to capture in this space, right there. Obviously it's much smaller, but here is the Ravenclaw dormitory, which I also very much like the look of. You can see the bunk beds over here with all the wood accents. So we're going to have to try to do a blend of those two. So I'm going to quickly make a mock-up of what that will look like in Lego, and we'll see if that layout works, and then we'll go from there. So I got a little carried away and went a step further than just laying out things. I decided to ditch the idea of a dormitory altogether because there just simply isn't enough space. Maybe in some sort of future modification of Hogwarts that will be included, but for now, this is what we have going on. So I decided to center this queen statue, which is, yeah, it's from a chessboard, but you know, it's Rowena Ravenclaw for right now. So I've tried to do this sort of emulating what you can see on the page right here. Very loose, of course, given the space. And I guess the main feature really is this sort of built-in bookshelf thing here on the side, and some curtains that are about to get caught on fire. And I've put some sort of a emulation of a rug in the middle with a tile piece that is most definitely not wood. So the idea for this is, well, it's pretty much done, but it's going to be symmetrical. But on this side, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm thinking of trying to use the fact that there is an empty space here to my advantage and make it look like there's a staircase that's rising up. Now, I won't actually build a staircase, but I'm thinking of doing some sort of half-height railing and an opening to imply that you could walk down. Obviously, you wouldn't want to because unexpected horrors below, but that is the idea. I've been trying to obviously also include some navy blue plates into here, just as sort of curtains, if you will, around the windows. And in the back here, I've been using these sort of wing pieces because they're quite long and interesting. And I'm just going to pretty much try to use some more of those pieces, a decent mix of navy wherever I can to accent the entire room, make sure it gets those Ravenclaw vibes. I've also got to make sure to find some sort of actual tile or banner piece that is Ravenclaw to really sell this room. But so far so good, and I'm quite liking how it looks like, especially from this angle. As soon as we're finished with this, you can see right here that we are about to start on where'd it go? It's right behind me. We're going to start on this, which is the very upper floor, and this is going to be the astronomy level, and I've decided that I'm not going to make this openable in any way. It's just going to have the roof on it in pretty much the same way that we're looking at this, where it's using these dark gray plates, and then we're going to tile them and such as much as we can. And the main way you'll see into this space is by looking through this giant hole, which I think is substantial enough. But that is what we're doing here. And then of course we've also got to attach this spire. So here we are several hours later, and no, I haven't been working for several hours, but that's how long it's been. I finished the Ravenclaw common room. I will show you a quick peek of what that looks like. From our little hatch in here, we've got Hermione, because I couldn't find a Ravenclaw character at the moment, but I would like to replace that minifigure at the back at some point. That's from a 2001 set, and it shows. But over here on this side, we do just have a railing, but it's looking pretty good for the space that we had. Now, of course, the main focus is going to be what's going on up here. I did a little bit of work on the roof panels, if you will. I've just plated and tiled off in a strange arrangement with sand green in order to match to the rest of the castle. If you are new here, you haven't watched any previous videos, the reason why it's a mix of dark gray and sand green is because I have never had enough of either one to choose either one of them. So by blending the two together, it means that when I have a lot of sand green, I can use it, and when I have hardly any sand green, I can also benefit from that as well. And pointing at this has also been probably the biggest difficulty so far, is trying to figure out how to work out this curvature over here for the roof panels. Now, it would work if I had a lot of these pieces, because this is the perfect angle to work with this slope right here, which is what I've used for this tower. However, that is also the problem why I don't have enough here, because I've used all of them for that tower over there. It used to go all the way around and it used to be good, but because I had to steal them to finish up that tower, I'm now left with, well, these ones and these ones, and neither of them are the right angle. So I am playing around with it and it's not looking good at all, but I'm hoping that I will figure out some sort of system that looks decent now by doing some sort of weird mismatch of sand green and such to cover all this up. I'm hoping that it will look rugged enough that you don't notice that, for example, there's a 1x6 on a jumper plate of a 2x8 and so on and so forth. But we will just have to see. I'm going to be doing several renditions of this to see what works best. And this is also very flimsy. Nothing is really attached above this point. I will just take this off real quick and show you that I've got this structure in here. It looks kind of cool, but it's not really supposed to. It's just a way for this cone to actually be standing on something, because for the longest time it was really just floating. So now it's a little bit more secure. We are going to do just an interior in here of some sort of astrology. So we're going to have astronomy, so telescopes and whatnot. I will probably be referencing the books for those, because we never actually got to see it in the movies. But yes, we will play around with the roof, we will do a bit of the interior, and that'll be the astronomy tower. Okay, so let me try to walk you through what I've been doing here. I am getting a little bit frustrated, as I've explained before, and I don't usually get frustrated, but this is proving to be a little bit difficult. I started off with a piece that does work and put it right here. And as I work my way around, I'm just going to try to get closer and closer to the center, and I'm going to mirror what I do on both sides. And I'm starting with small pieces, because when you do big chunks, it starts overhanging and looking a bit odd. So I'm using this is a 1x10 and a 2x6 sitting right here. And I sort of overlapping a bit. There are some pretty huge gaps, but I'm hoping that as a sort of cohesive thing, once it's done, those gaps won't be too obvious, or if they are, then you won't really mind them, because it kind of just looks part of the design. So that's the hope here, and I'm just moving slowly. Another thing I've done is I used a few of these hinge bricks mounted on some 1x1 round studs so that they can work. And this is just to hold it a little bit more together. There are some bits that of course are just by themselves, but this it's just a gentle sort of support system to this, so that nothing just crumbles when I go to push on it. So we're gonna just keep going around very slowly. It's probably going to take quite a few iterations, and we'll meet back in the middle and I'll show you how that turned out. So, little update, I actually decided not to mirror it, and that's not by choice actually. It's because I forgot that the pattern, let's call it, of this thing isn't actually symmetrical. So what starts on this side, in terms of it's 2 and then 1, 2 and then 1, it doesn't line up on this side. So actually it has to pretty much be unique all the way around. That being said, I am a few panels in, and so far so good. I mean, if you kind of take a step back and look at it from this distance, looking pretty good. Alright, so here we are the next morning, and one of the main things I've done, and obviously it's a small change, but I've changed out the dark grey cones for sand green, and it's the last ones I have. And glad I have used it here, because it looked a little bit out of place before. The sand green now makes this less obvious. What was happening before is that these just were protruding a little bit too much. I mean, they still are, but they were very obvious before. So now everything looks a little bit more put together. I am getting started now on the inside of the astronomy tower, and I'll walk you through what I intend to do. Now, this is space we're dealing with. We've got this little bit here, which in the actual movies and books and Hogwarts Legacy and such, that's actually an entire classroom, that bit back there. And now in this version, it's really just enough for one minifigure. what I'm intending to do, and this is entirely based on Hogwarts Legacy, and I will put a picture on screen of what I'm talking about, so I'm not just running in circles, but there's essentially a raised wooden platform right in the middle of the floor that looks out through that circle, and then there's a large telescope that sort of protrudes out, and that's what I'm going to try to recreate. And what I have here is just some things that were from some of the Hogwarts sets. So we've got an astronomy scroll, as well as some sort of solar device. And we've got the space obviously back here. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to leave that open or not. I might do something similar to the Ravenclaw common room, in which I sort of just put a railing and imply that there's a staircase coming up from there, and that's how you enter. But the idea is, of course, it's all centered around this one window, and if that's what you can see from the outside, a telescope sticking out would really sell the idea of this being the astronomy tower. So I'm going to build that myself. I'm going to figure out some way to base it off of the original pieces like that from the sets. So I've got a few right here, and I'm planning on making it quite big, probably about, well, the size of a minifigure, if not double that. We'll see how I come up with something. I really want to make it look nice and magical. And then we'll put the roof back on, and that will be the astronomy tower. Alright, behold this monstrosity of a telescope, which really should have the words or the numbers 3000 at the end. It's so big. I kind of got carried away with the pieces here. It's a mixture of all these different gold elements, just sort of cups, and I'm not gonna even bother naming them. You guys can see it. It's pretty big. It's on this platform here on the inside, which is just in front of this window, looking pretty good. There's some steps leading up to it. Of course, we've got to finish the rest of the interior, but it'll come around the outside, and you guys can kind of see what it will look like. I think that is pretty darn cool. I'm really happy with that. I might have it stick out a little bit more, because most of it is concealed on the inside, which, while you can see it from this angle, you obviously won't be able to once there's a roof on it. But I didn't want to put the platform just right there on the edge. I wanted to make it feel a little bit realistic. So there we have it. We're going to keep going with the interior and put a few other things to sort of spice it up, but obviously keeping in mind that it is going to be quite simple, because this is the only angle that you're really going to see it from. So you're getting a little snapshot of that corner back there, and of course on this side as well. So we're just going to, wherever I put them, we're going to fill up the rest of the space, and then we'll keep going. So taking a step back, you can see what the astronomy tower looks like next to the rest of the castle. Obviously this side is over here, but it is pretty much the tallest building. I mean, it's in close competition with this one over here, but we're going to call it the tallest. And just quick sort of walk through around the back, or the side rather. See now what this looks like. It's a little bit hodgepodge, but I think it definitely works, at least for now, until I can come up with a better solution. I mean, if this is the angle that you're viewing it at, you can kind of see some hints of something inside there. We've got some astronomy pieces, and then of course we have the telescope, which I have moved slightly further out. That's what it looks like sticking out of this main hole. So that is now the astronomy tower done. It looks almost exactly the same that it used to, apart from the roof color being changed, so that's the biggest difference. But of course now we have a full interior on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 floors, and there's about 8 or 9 interiors in there, so I'm really happy with what we were able to get done. However, we are not completely finished with this, because we have just a few things to mention, and this is all based on your comments. I would like to firstly just say thank you for all the people that take the time to go down there and give me suggestions. I might not agree with all of them, but sometimes there are some great ideas, and even if I don't have the time or the ability to change some of these things, I do keep them in mind, and they're very helpful to get some other opinions. So thank you so much to everyone. Now, in terms of things that I am considering at the moment, someone had suggested, I believe it was ADMB, so thank you very much. A solution to figure out how to cover up these holes here was actually just to use these corner 1x1 tiles, and I don't have them in tan currently at the moment, but well, the curvature would allow for that hinge piece, and it would also make sure that that gap wouldn't be visible, so thank you for that. I will be doing that in a second. Also, we have quite a few comments about the chessboard floor. I'll come around this side. A few of them were based on the size of the tiles, which I do agree with. It would look better if it was smaller, but however, the reason why I've done this is because I think it gives enough room to make a life-size looking chessboard. So I am going to be keeping the 4x4 tiles, at least for now. That might change in the future. But thank you all for suggestions. In this space here, though, I am thinking instead of piling a bunch of chessboard pieces, I'm going to take a quick look at the potions challenge from the Philosopher's Stone, which only showed up in the books. Now, that was one of the comments, just to try to figure if it could go in somewhere. I'm not sure if they meant this, but this is where I'm deciding it could go. I'm going to make a little corner here based on the description from the book, which was essentially just a table with several vials, and it vanishes you to the next challenge. So we're going to do a little bit of edits here and there of this area, and we'll call it a day. Okay, so those tiles actually worked an absolute treat. You can see what they look like right there. They've just got ever so slight wiggle room with the hinge brick, and it does open. So thank you very much for that suggestion. It has helped quite a lot with this facade. There's no longer a random gap there. Now, next up is figuring out how to introduce a potion challenge in there, and to figure out what that might look like, I went back to the source material, and well, let's read. First thing that we can see, this is the wrong page, isn't it? First thing you can see is they stepped through the doorway and immediately a fire sprang up behind them. It wasn't ordinary, it was purple. Same time, black flames shot up on the doorway leading onwards. So we've got fires on either side. So presumably I'd have black flames on this side and purple flames on this side, and then right in the middle would be a table with 7 different vials on it. So let's see what we can do. And just like that, we have got the potion challenge in place. Now, it's a bit dark, you can't quite see it, but essentially what I've done is used a Dementor cape as the black flames. That's simply because I don't have actual flame pieces in black, so I think it looks pretty decent. Just behind it is a little wall that is from one of the potion sets, so I thought it was quite fitting to put that there. And then we have just a little simple table build with 7 different vials, specifically 7, and there's only one that will take you through and one that will take you back through our poison and to our wine. But there you have it. That is the finishing touches of the Astronomy Tower. So as of right now, this building is completely done, which is a great success. I'm really happy with how it turned out. The fact that we were able to get so many different interiors into this was quite amazing. Now, I would love to put even more. There are so many in Hogwarts that I haven't had the chance to do yet, but hopefully we'll be able to do that in future videos, squeeze what we can where we can. For example, we still have 1, 2, 3, or actually 1, 2 interiors right here, and if we can squeeze anything into the bell towers, we have some spaces there where we can do a few small Easter egg style interiors. And of course, to do those, I will be referencing some of the comments from previous videos where everyone has given suggestions on what I can put in those. So never fear, if you guys have left a suggestion on what those interiors will be, I've already made a list and I will be choosing what I think is most appropriate for future videos. So here's just a last look at the Astronomy Tower from the front of the MOC, or what will be the front of the MOC. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I was a little bit skeptical about how this roof might look, but it's pretty solid, and I definitely like it more in sand green than I did in gray. But in any case, I hope you all enjoyed watching this week's video. Next week, we're going to be turning our attention a little bit more to the grounds and to the water over there, because we've got to start focusing on the exterior before we move back to the interiors. The exterior is obviously the first thing that people are going to be seeing, so I want to make sure that the Hogwarts grounds are just as good as the actual castle itself. That is all for this week. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.